So one question is, how can you give yourself greater joy in everyday life? If you believe that the research is suggesting that it's important to have a fairly high level of happiness in daily life. So in psychology, we talk about strategies that people need to develop. It's a funny word, right? When we think of strategies, we think of military campaigns. We think of fighting battles and fighting wars. But in psychology, this is the term that seems to be used. It's the idea when you have a strategy, you're taking time, you're planning something. It doesn't happen by accident. And so some of us are lucky, we're blessed being born with a high level of happiness. And there is some biological basis to this. But most psychologists believe that there's a lot within our power to boost our level of happiness. And this is where strategies come in. Now, we're all different. Every person is unique. So there's no one size fits all. Different people need to strategize what gives them a sense of joy. For instance, my family, going back many generations, has had many people active in the field of music, composers, performers. I've been able to trace this more than 150 years. My children play instruments. I play several instruments. This is probably somewhat genetic, this kind of talent. So for me, the importance of listening to music to give me a greater sense of happiness is very real. Now, this is not true for everyone. Some people don't experience much joy or happiness from music, but they may feel it from physical activity, from physical exercise. Other people are very extroverted, and when they're with other people in large groups, they feel much greater well-being, greater joy. So my first point is you need to discover what gives you a sense of joy. Abraham Maslow called these moments peak experiences. And by definition, these are moments of great happiness. So as a therapist, as an educator, I ask people to think back over the last few months and to try to recall a moment of great happiness or great joy. If you can't think of one for the last few months, almost everyone in his or her life has had some of these moments, and to spend a few minutes to write it down and to see what were the characteristics, what was going on. Were you with other people? Were you by yourself? There are many catalysts for peak experiences, and this depends on our personality. I've done studies with colleagues in India. In India, having a sense of personal achievement often triggers a peak experience. And this is true in other countries too, of course. So for some people, thinking of a time when they were able to achieve something, they finished an educational program, they started a new job, they launched a new business, or they got a promotion. This is a peak experience. For other people, it seems it may involve a family member, seeing their child graduate from high school or college, or even start kindergarten. This gives a great sense of joy. And of course, this is connected to the sense of personal meaning also. So this is one suggestion. A second suggestion, for years, as a therapist and educator, I encourage people to keep a journal. And there are two aspects to this. One that's become very popular in positive psychology is to express gratitude in your journal. Some psychologists say if you want to know one way to make yourself happier and joyful, it's to become a more grateful person, to have more gratitude in your life. And so one activity is every day to write down something that you feel grateful for that happened. It certainly doesn't have to be something huge, something extraordinary. Actually, quite the opposite. If you found that you got to work more easily than usual. There was less traffic, or there were no delays on the bus or subway. You could put that down as something you're grateful for. If you went to a restaurant and the meal was better than you expected, put it down. That would be something else. The idea is that when we get in the habit, in the mindset of feeling gratitude, we become happier people. We become more joyful people. And the third thing that I'll mention, and then it looks like my 20 minutes will be about up, there's a new area of psychology called savoring, just like the word in English, but it's become a technical word too. And it means we need to slow down in daily life and to take time, almost like a form of meditation. And of course, I don't need to tell you, your country was one of the first in the world to develop meditation as a very serious, systematic technique of changing consciousness. The idea is that savoring, slowing down, eating in a slower, a more relaxed manner, drinking where we activate our senses, even talking with other people. In the last few days, I've had conversations with some colleagues, people I don't know extremely well, and I find that sometimes their mind is wandering while the conversation is going on at lunch or at dinner. They're not fully in the present. I don't blame them. I don't feel insulted, but it seems that that's not really good for their well-being. If they're thinking about a meeting or something that happened earlier, they're not fully in the present. So savoring is a concept that says we need to enjoy with our senses. We need to absorb and bask in what we're experiencing. And also we can do that retrospectively to increase our well-being. If you had a wonderful meal or a wonderful visit with a friend last week, you can savor that. You can close your eyes and think back to that experience. Try to bring in all your senses, sound, smell, taste, visual, of course. And there's been research that that strengthens people's happiness and well-being also.